Howdy everybody in YouTube land. What we have in front of us today, being filmed in the basement laundry room area, is the Akai component stereo. So this particular stereo system here was given to me, and it's, I don't know the condition of it. I don't know if the components itself work, but anyways, regardless, we've got several surface issues going on at the current moment in time. So problem number one is this front door glass. It's dragging, and we got to figure that out. It looks like it's been dragging for a while now, so I need to do an inspection to find out what's going on with that and see what we can do with that. Maybe I need to adjust it, or you know, those little things. So that's problem number one. And then of course I don't know what other situations are going on as far as the actual electronics and all that stuff. But what we have a Akai direct drive turntable. So that's a nice little turntable. It's an AP-A201. We have a quartz synthesized tuner, AT-A301. We have the power amplifier, which is an AM-A401. Starting to get the theme here. We have an EQ, which is EA-A1, actually broke from tradition. And then we have a double cassette deck, which is the HX-A301W, I think that is. Not top of the line, not bottom of the line, just kind of, I don't know, middle of the road, in my opinion. So, yeah, that's kind of what we've got going on there. I got all the RCA cables and all that fun stuff. So, surface level issues, we have the door that has a problem. And then we also have a problem with, let me get the camera moved around. We also have a problem with the turntable. The turntable is in relatively decent shape. It's a direct drive turntable, so it's a good turntable, but the stylus is gone. So yeah, the other problem is the top glass is missing, and this board is broken loose. So that's probably why the top glass is gone, because we have a problem here from that being broken. The rear, as far as what we have for inputs, we have our video disc input, which is kind of strange. We have video tape recorder, equalizer in out. We have a CD auxiliary tuner and phono. So at least we can add like Bluetooth, or we can add a serial player, a serial player. Let's add a serial player. Yeah, CD player and all of that type of stuff. So in today's age, you could probably use a cassette deck if you want to enjoy it. You're going to use a turntable. That's ultimately why I'm fixing it, so we can have the turntable. But you can hook a CD player up, or we can hook a Bluetooth receiver up to it and use a modern phone, you know, little things like that. Now, as far as the turntable is concerned, I can get a replacement stylus for that, but genuine styluses are just not going to be easy to find. They're all generic replacements. So we're just going to go ahead and do the this modification to it right here. So that's going to be what we're going to put in there. And the design is very similar. The way this cartridge goes on, well, not even so much the cartridge, but the stylus itself, it's got the same type pinch corners on the side. So that should take care of that. At least these are still available, and they're still made in Japan. So, all right, with that said, I think, because it looks like it's dragging on the bottom here, I think we will get all the components out so we can look at them one by one. I was getting ready to pull the equipment out to go through it, and holy crap, the manuals are still in here. Still in their bags, too. Japanese writing on it. This is actually impressive, because most of the time this stuff is long gone. I don't know what year these things were made. I'm gonna say mid 90s, early 90s. I'm not sure, but we're gonna find out. All right, well, I got that and that curing at the moment. Got all the epoxy mixed up. That's the stuff I use on power books and stuff like that, and I just ended up using the last bit of it, so I got to get some more. But that's done, and we'll let that cure. There's the cassette deck. No frills. HX-A301, nothing. Doesn't seem to be that special of a unit, but oh yeah, it looks like the mechanism has seen a ton of use. Look at those heads. They're like worn completely down. Or pretty close to it anyway. So this thing has seen a lot of use of cassettes. But it might still sound okay. We shall see, but I don't know. We'll find out. However, flavor country. Because that thing is absolutely disgusting. Who knows when the last time this was cleaned? Probably never. I don't know. This seems like a late 80s, early 90s model. That's better. Ugh. Much better. Much, much, much better. Alright. Not much of a VU meter. Dubbing is turned on. Looks like they were using it for copying cassettes. Dolby is on, but it doesn't say what version of Dolby it is. It's probably Dolby A. Maybe Dolby B, but it doesn't really say. So, yeah, that's the playback only deck, and that's the record deck. Yeah, it looks like the record deck has gotten more use than the playback only deck, but I don't know. The pinch rollers don't look too bad. The belts are the big concern. We'll have to see if we can, what the belt situation looks like when we get this thing apart, because I want to get this thing apart first before I turn it on. The lid is off the unit now, and I mean, it's not built that badly. So, it's got some beefy motors on those. But it's definitely cost reduced compared to when a lot of the sets of the era. But it's definitely older. It's not 90s. This is older than 90s. And let's see. Let's look around for some date codes. 95, maybe? Maybe it is 95. I don't think so, though. Oh, wait. 85. 1985. See what's on the IC. We got another 5 there. It's definitely 1985 for sure. What about that IC? 5. Yeah, this is 1985. Okay, so this thing is as old as I am. Alright. Let's see, what's the conditions of the belts? The flat belt's actually not that bad. Where's my pick tool? There you are. The flat belt is not that bad. I mean, it's a little... No, it's not bad at all. What about the other one? No? What about the rim belt? That one's a little loose. That one's very loose. So this one's been used a lot more. So if I go in here, you can kind of see. Yeah, that one. I mean, they're not bad, but they're not good. And then we go to this one here. That one's tighter. Alright, so now let's look at the counter belt, which is right here. I don't know if you can see it. Probably not. Yeah, that's done too. Okay, so it definitely needs belts. However, they're not bad enough to where we can't actually test this thing. But they are pretty bad, so we're going to have to get some belts for this. I'm probably going to have to take a Scotch-Brite or Magic Eraser or something to that head, because there's actually corrosion on the surface of that head. That one's not so bad. The other thing too is there's a lot of oxide compound on the capstan So we gotta clean this stuff up before this work. This thing was well loved. It's got a lot of use. It's definitely well loved. Someone got their money's worth out of it for the time, that's for sure. Nothing special. All original belts, all original everything. You know, as I use this thing, it actually sounds amazing. It's working really well. And just a little bit of magic eraser on those heads and the capstan, that actually cleaned up really good. So, yeah, there's a little bit of wear, but it's not impacting the sound, and the belts seem to be working fine. They feel a little loose, but at the same time, not really. There's plenty of torque. There's everything seems to be working fine with that. So I think I'm inclined to leave it alone. So I'm going to check the speed on those motors and make sure everything is good in that department and move right along. Time to spray out this record play switch before things get a little bit hairy. Because you know how that goes. I put all this back together and then the record play switch becomes problematic. So let's clean that guy up. And hopefully we can get this thing put back together. Speed's pretty close. I can't actually get to the potentiometer to adjust these motors, so they're not quite 3 kilohertz. It's like 2904 kilohertz, give or take. So it's super close, and they're both almost exactly the same, so I'm just going to leave it alone. And I'm just going to put this thing back together because I don't see any reason replacing a bunch of belts when they're not bad. Because the thing is, belts made today aren't going to be near as high quality as belts are made then. So you're going to have more wow, flutter, stuff like that, because I've run into that. So clean that up and get this thing back together, and we're going to move on to the next one. Alright, so the next thing up on the component stereo is the integrated amplifier AM-A401. So this one, again, just like the cassette deck, don't know much about it. Cassette deck worked fine. So now we're on the amplifier. I just want to do a quick little inspection through the cover here. And one thing I noticed is it's got that stupid glue in it that becomes hygroscopic and corrodes and stuff like that. So I do want to take this lid off and check things out, especially solder joints. Because I'm curious, does this have a service hatch on the bottom of it? It does. This actually has a service hatch, and this thing looks like it's got STK chips in there. Ooh, okay. That makes me curious, immediately curious. Does this thing have bad STKs? Maybe that's why this thing was retired. I don't know. But I think first, you know what's next is we need to clean up that cover because it's absolutely filthy. Because I really don't want to touch this thing with how filthy it is. Yeah, I gotta get rid of this rag because I'm just smearing friggin' heatsink compound everywhere. Okay. Now I'm just gonna plug it in and energize it. See what we get. Okay, we are plugged in. Here we go. Oh, I got a relay. Protection relay engaged. It looks like we're on the CD input. Tape's on. That's on. I'd be terrified to find out. How this thing sounds. Okay. Alright, the speaker protection relay engaged. I don't see any blown fuses. Yeah, the speaker protection relay is engaging. Okay, well, let's get the speakers hooked up and see if this thing actually has sound. I'd be impressed if this entire stereo system works as is without any need for electrical repairs. That'd be unusual for this channel. Alright, we're hooked up. I got the computer plugged into the CD input. I got some just sample music playing. No sound. No sound at all. No, nothing. But I bet, you know what? I bet I know why that is. Because, yeah, there's an equalizer in and out, which is the another way of saying pre-out main in. So actually, we have to go get the EQ and let's plug the EQ in, because without that, we can't tell if this thing's working. Yeah, and the EQ is just as gross. So, yeah, let's clean that up. Okay, this is the EA-A1. Now this is not standalone, it has to be connected in. So, see, line in, which is equalizer out, I think. I don't know. This is labeled in a weird way. And we're just going to go, I guess we shall find out now, won't we? Alright, power. This power cord's just as nasty. Okay. I guess we're going to do a twofer. We're going to know if the EQ works as well. On. Equalizer is on. No. Nothing. I think we have our problem, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. So maybe it's. Let me try the other way. Okay. No. Yeah, we have our problem. Okay. For the sake of process of elimination here, we know that the EQ may or may not be any good. I don't know yet. Since this is the amplifier is the most common trouble point when it comes to, stereo systems. So let's see, tape. Equalizer. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do an EQ bypass. And that is how we're going to do that, is just jumper it with RCAs. Because I want to make sure that we don't have another problem here. Oh, I see you now. Oh, I got indications on the level meter. But I have no output still. You can see CD was used the most because that light is the dimmest. Yeah, they used CD input the most. No, because I saw something coming in here. Let's turn the speakers off. Let's leave them off. Let's turn this up. Yeah? The protection relay disengaged when I did that. Yeah, we got a problem with the amplifier. So, all right. Let's see what input we are. We are on input A. Okay, so we found our problem. Our problem is the amplifier has a fault. So let's get it apart and find out what's going on. All right, now that the cover's off, that right there, my friends, is mine and your biggest nightmare. This thing is an STK riddled mess. So we don't have sound, even though we got activity on the level meter. That could be on the preamp side, not the output side. But we do have STK audio output modules. And we have this STK, probably a preamp driver board module thing. I don't know. But yes. So our issue, the reason why this thing doesn't have sound, is I can almost lay money on it that one of these STKs is bad. Because STKs, as soon as Sanyo got the rights to manufacture these chips, they were junk. They've been junk for years. So we'll have to get another STK if that's bad. Now a 1070 is not as common, so it's a lot less likely to be counterfeit, so I can probably get a replacement. But we'll have to see. But, I could be talking out of my ass because I don't know if the chip has actually failed. But what I am going to do is I'm going to energize it, and then we're going to trace the circuit to see if we get any audio output from these at all, or better yet, input, because there's our filter network. So I can go ahead and probe here to see if we're getting anything going out through the relay. We can also check for DC offset, because if one of these is rail hard over, well, there's your problem. So, right, we'll get this figured out somehow. All right, I skipped ahead a bit and I did some probing around off camera. So the way this amplifier is designed, these STK 1070s are basically the STK Darlington power packs, the 0050, 0080 that you see in like the Pioneer SX series. Those are the same. So this is your bias and output transistors. Now the differential stage and VAS, or voltage amplification stage, are both in this STK 3062. Alright, so chasing the circuit here, which we have all of that right here, I've got audio coming out both to pin 4 and pin 6, which is to the input of these two STK 3062s, which are this one here. So it's coming on this connector there, and I do have AC signal that varies with the volume control when I turn this up and down. So that rolls out the entire front end of the amplifier. It's working properly. So we know that for a fact. Plus, eventually the relay will disengage, but I have no output. So then what I've done is I've taken and measured the AC signal coming into these two. Nothing. So this IC is not functional. The STK 3062 is bad or missing voltage. Well, how could we be missing voltage? I got both rails here. Well, if we look, we have some fusible resistors. So what we should do is we should test the fusible resistors. Actually, I don't even need to do that. I can measure the voltage across those resistors. So let's turn the power on. See, we've got FR 1 and 2, which are here and here. So we have 55 volts on that side. On that side, negative. We're good. Okay. So that rolls out the power rails. This IC is bad. Actually, let's check the positive and negative 15 volt rail. So there's the positive 15 volt rail, which I think ends up over here. Yep. Negative 15 volt is up right next to that. Okay. So that rail's good. So this chip is bad. So we have a bad STK 3062 Mark III. Surprise, surprise, a bad STK. Yep, that's going to need to be replaced. Alright, so what I did was I cracked the lid open on the 3062 because I wanted to see where the damage was, if it was visible. Because I've worked on enough STKs in my lifetime that usually when these fail, they fail visibly. You can see the bad transistors. So I broke this side off first and I didn't see anything, but remember, that's the side I was kind of getting a little bit of an AC signal from, where that one I wasn't getting anything. So if I look down through here, if you look right there, you see that little slash in that transistor in the center of the screen? Yeah, it's blown, because the other one looks fine, but that one does not. Well, if we follow that circuit, jumps through that little loop there and goes to pin 6. Yeah, pin 6. Well, if we take a look at the schematic, pin 6 is the drive output to the STK1070. Which means if that blew out, did this 1070 go with it? Because which one is that? That is IC2. Yeah. Did that 1070 go with it? I don't know. I almost want to change the pair if I can find them. But there you go. I don't think it's worth it for this particular amplifier, but there are third-party re-engineered replacements for the 1070 available on eBay. But then if I'd have to replace both of them, so that would be $130. I mean, can I justify that? I don't know. But I can get this at least, so I'm going to order that first. And we'll see where that goes. Because, yeah, that's a problem. We got to replace that. Alright, so fast forward a little bit of time. I went ahead and ordered some parts, so I got a replacement 1070 in case I have an issue. Now, that one's a different design versus the original, but I don't know. I'm hoping I won't need that, but I have it just in case. The second thing I did was I bought the driver IC, which was bad. Now, this is a fake. You can tell it's a fake, because if you look at even the font style is just completely different from the original to the fake. So, but the thing is, they don't make these anymore. You can't get these anymore. So I'm hoping this actually works. If not, the only other solution is to make an aftermarket version. Now, you can just tell. There's an aftermarket version that you can build. It's open source. There's a GitHub where you can get the Gerber files, make the PCB from PCBWay, and then populate it with modern components. But I'm really hoping that I don't have to go that far, but we'll see. Alright, let's get those parts in there, and let's see if that resolves our issue. I'm hoping that it does. Alright, now that's been reinstalled. The next thing we need to do is take care of the bad solder joints on the positive and negative 15 volt regulators, because they are atrocious. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that too, because that's not helping matters either. Alright, so all of those solder joints have been taken care of, so time to get this thing flipped back around and test it and see what happens. I'm not going to plug a speaker directly into it. I'm just going to use the multimeter just to make sure I've got no DC offset or any other weirdness going on there before I plug in speakers to it and blow everything up. So that's how we're going to handle that first. Alright, looks like I got it down relatively far. I don't see any smoke. I'm on the left channel, and look at that. We now have AC voltage. What's our DC offset look like? Very little. I think we're good. I'm going to check the other channel, and once I know the other channel's good, I'm going to hook up the speakers. Gotta spray the pots. Seems to work fine. That's amazing. The output modules are good. It was only the driver that failed. Make sure it doesn't get excessively hot, because the bias is set in this. And the difference between the different versions of these is the bias resistor network. So I got to pay attention to that. This thing's been running for a couple hours now, and it's pretty warm. But other than that, it seems to be working perfectly fine. I don't really have any issues. This chip here does get very, very warm. So maybe that's why it failed originally. Who knows? But it works fine now. So really, the only thing that saves at this point is doing the less intense stuff for last. Like, I need to get this apart so I can spray out the potentiometers because they're very noisy. So I've got to do that, and I think that's going to wrap this part of it up. Oh, I got to test the equalizer. Now that this thing is working, I need to grab the equalizer, put it on here, and test that next. But first, I need to get this faceplate off so I can get to the potentiometers and clean them out. Fortunately, this was fairly easy compared to a lot of these amplifiers. So all I had to do is take the screws out all the way around and pull the knobs off the front, and the whole front cover just slides out, leaving the potentiometers completely exposed. Heck, I thought I was going to have to pull all these cables and fight with all that, but no, I only have to just deal with that part there. So that way it makes it so much easier to get to the front of the potentiometers, to spray my little fader F5 in there. So we're gonna, this stuff you have to be super careful with, because the issue is it likes to just go everywhere. It's like their only sole goal in life is to keep you buying more of their product. So anyways, we'll spray you out, get you worked in there. Look, it doesn't take much. And the volume slider, which is hard to do because there's like felt here, so the trick is to not get in the felt. And that's all there is to it. Alright, the equalizer is all hooked up and energized. I have not taken it apart. I have not cleaned the potentiometers. I haven't done anything. So now what I'm going to do is fire the music up, adjust all of this stuff, and see what it sounds like. Well, it works. That's a good thing. Yeah. Now that we know the cassette deck, the amplifier, and the equalizer work fine and have been attended to, that only leaves a couple more things left. So the first one here is the tuner. Now, there's probably not going to be much to it. It's probably going to work fine, but before I plug this in, I want to take it apart, and the reason why I want to is because some of these, I don't know about this one in particular, but some of these have a NiCad battery in there, like a Varda battery, to keep the memory of your programmed station presets. So I want to make sure that there's no battery in here before I even attempt to power it up, because it could have bombed out and destroyed the board. I don't know. So taking this apart, and I'm going to double verify that. Before I take this nasty ass thing apart, this thing needs a little bit of spritzing. Just took the lid off, and no, there's no Varda battery in here. Praise the electronics gods for that one. But there is a battery, and it's right here. So, and it's one of those coin ones like you see in the PowerBook 100 series machines. No. So that one either needs to be removed or replaced. First off, it's not showing any signs of leakage yet, but I do want to plug this thing in and I want to see if this battery even holds a charge. Because if it doesn't, there's no point in even leaving it in here. I'm just going to remove it. Alright, I just turned it on and it powered straight up to 96.7. So it's got some memory left in it still. I want to check that battery because if that battery is still holding charge, that's impressive. Sure enough, that battery is holding a full charge. It's set at 3.2 volts. So if I measure this guy between here and here, yeah, that thing is holding full charge. That is impressive. Holy crap. I'm going to leave it in there. Heck with it. Yeah, I don't have the FM antenna. It's got this funky connector, but I do have the AM one that came with this thing, and it is locked into a station. So this thing is actually working just fine. So I don't have to do anything in this one. I'm just going to put it back together. But yeah, the battery holds a charge. I am impressed. Impressed for a machine that was made in 1985. Now I'm saving the best one for last, and the entire reason why I even worked on this project, because I need another stereo like I need a hole in the head. But so the only reason why I'm working on this project is for this guy right here, the Akai direct drive turntable AP-A201. Now this one's missing the stylus. Outside of that, I don't know if it works. So the there's no power button, so I'm kind of confused. Oh yeah, that's why. So we are on 45. Now we're on 33. So the direct drive part actually works. Now, I have a concern. That tone arm does not look straight. Perhaps it's an optical illusion. But it certainly does look like it has a bow to it. You know, I think it's an optical illusion. Yeah, probably is. So there's two things at play here that I need to figure out how to do. First off, I want to see if this is running at the right speed. But more importantly, I need to figure out if, you know, how to set the tracking force on this, because the new stylus is going to have a new tracking force to it, of course. But also, I need to figure out how to set the anti-skate. I don't know if this device has one. I'll have to figure that out. Alright, got my phone set up with the RPM meter. Let's see how this thing measures. Start. That's kind of impressive, actually. Alright, shut you off. 0.06%. Okay, let's see what 45 does. Reset. Start. $44.7, a little low. So there's probably an adjustment for that. But that's really close to being 45. But yeah, that's... I don't know how to read those specs, but that kind of looks good. Anyway, so the turntable's working, so I guess now we just got to get this cartridge changed. Then I got to figure out how the anti-skate and all that stuff is adjusted, because I don't know. Alright, so I found the service manual, and unfortunately it's in a different language, but even so, it doesn't tell me how to adjust the anti-skate or the tracking force. It's not there. The schematic's there, but I don't need that. So I went to look for the user manual, and the user manual does not exist on the internet. But fortunately, this thing came with its user manual. So I have the user manual for this turntable, and the problem is the manual, this manual tells you basically how to use it as you're supposed to. The problem is it doesn't tell you exactly what the tracking force setting location or any of that stuff is either. Just tells you how to use the player as predicted, and then tells you how to change the cartridge, which we still need to do. And also, that's it. It doesn't tell you anything else. Some basic troubleshooting steps, and that's it. But it does tell you what the wow and flutter, so it's a little higher on my test versus what it's rated here, but it's pretty close. But it also tells you it's set for 1.25 grams of tracking force, which I think is within the same as the Audio Technica cartridge I just got. But again, it's hard to say. But again, there's no definitions on how to set. Okay, so now we're getting into a different language, which is German, I think. I don't know. I'm not a foreign language person, so I don't have a clue. But Deutschland, yeah. So yeah, this is it. Nothing. Then there's an antenna manual thing. So there's the user manual. Okay, so we're just gonna have to wing it because there's this screw and adjustment locking thing there. But I don't know if that's the anti-skate or if that's the tracking. But there's also a hole in the back here that does who knows what. So no, there's another one of those over here, so maybe not. I don't know. This is confusing, so we're gonna have to do this the hard way. Alright, so I got the new cartridge out of its box, and the good news is it shows it's anywhere between 1 to 1.5, which is the user manual for this is 1.2. So if we measure this one, we're pretty much within spec. So that's good. We're just going to leave that alone. I don't know about the anti-skate yet, but we're going to leave that alone. So we're just going to go ahead and change this stylus and cartridge assembly out, and we'll see what happens here. But before I do that, I wanted to take a look at this. See what we got underneath it. Little plastic gear, no cracks, everything looks good there. And that looks like it's got some ants or something on it. Anyways, so there's the return gear mechanism thingy. And yep, there it is. That's the direct drive motor up underneath it. But yeah. Alright, well, I'm just going to leave that alone. I don't want to make that any worse. I don't know if the adjustment's good yet or not, so we're going to find that out once I get the cartridge replaced. Alright, so now that we got the new stylus installed with the new cartridge and all of that, got a record on there. What I'm trying to do is I want to test to see if the return and Q and all that stuff works. So let's see, what does this do? Actually, before I do that, I'm going to try you. Okay. So I can hear music coming through. So let's see how that works. Nope. Adjustment's off. Didn't quite make it to the end. The adjustment is off. Alright, so that shut it off. Let's see if it'll start. No, it doesn't have an auto start. Okay, yeah, stand by. Actually, you know what? If I could actually read, it says cut, not Q. Cut, not Q, cut. Alright, so I think if I lift this up, it's already lifted up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start it. I want to make sure this returns in the right spot, because I want to do this without bumping the arm. Because the problem is the run out is done here. Whoop, 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 whoop. I'm trying to do this without bumping it. So I think when you get that done here, I'm hoping it returns at the right point instead of too early. Looks like we're at the end of the song here, and I hope it returns at the right point. Let's see. Yep, there it goes. Alright. So maybe I just bumped it too soon or something like that earlier, but it seems to be returning correctly. So, yeah, it's cut, return, not Q. Cut, 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 not Q. If I could read. Anyways, I think it's operating properly, so I'm going to go ahead and put this back in the stereo rack, because this was the last piece of the puzzle. So I think we're going to be done here. I'm going to go ahead and get it all put up, get a couple of speakers wired into the rack, and see how it sounds. Because why not? I can't get a lot of this on video because, well, the copyright police will zap me, so maybe a couple seconds at best. Here's a song I was absolutely obsessed with when I was a kid when it first came out. I can't remember if it was on Z93 or 100.9 The Wiz. It's been, I don't know, 31 years. But I don't know, I was always obsessed with this one when I was a kid. It'll get you going. So, I've been listening to this for a few hours yesterday and a little bit of time today. And I noticed something. It's developed, and I think I recall hearing this on the bench, but I don't know. But it's developed an issue, and that issue is in the right channel. So, turntable works, everything's working fine, except the right channel, it intermittently cuts out. And I'm trying to figure out if it's in this or if it's in this. I think it's in here. It's kind of hard to tell because I gotta have a source going, and I can't keep the turntable playing because I'll get hit by copyright. But you can, when it does it, you can hear the popping in the speaker. There's definitely an issue with that, so I gotta work through this and figure out where that is. Alright, so it's on right now, right channel only. Let's see if we can't locate this fault. Here. You gotta be kidding me. I really hope it's not this. Trying to isolate it down. This is the fun part. Because it could be anywhere. There is some of this crappy glue, though. Now, I'm not 100% clear on anything yet. I just removed some boards out of the way, and there are a ton of broken solder joints on these connectors. Like there's one there. There's one up there in that corner. And there's some down here too. And all of these are on the labeled connections where it says right. So, yeah, it's the right channel that's giving me all the mess. So I'm going to just go ahead and touch up all of these solder joints. I'm going to check the connectors here, which I already think I got that. But I got to do this front panel control as well. So, also this one here. This one's got some issues with broken solder joints. Not quite as bad. But the problem is it was universal across the inputs. It didn't matter. So I doubt if the problem is this one. The issue is going to be this guy. Also, I found a factory flaw. And if you look at this connector, see this in connector there? It's like pushed all the way in. And the wire was outside of it. And that's the C marker. I don't know what that means. But that probably didn't help matters either. So, yeah, this thing's got a lot of little issues I've got to address that I should have addressed the first time around, but I didn't think about it. So, let's get all that done. Alright, so I took the front panel board off and there really wasn't any bad solder joints on there, so I just touched up a few anyways and just put it back on. This really is the one that had all the broken solder joints, and well, this is the audio routing board, so it kind of makes sense. So I went ahead and just resoldered all of that crap, and then I'm just going to go ahead and put this back together and see what it does first before I start tearing into this one if this one's a problem. I think I have it figured out. I think. So I redid all of that and it still gave me problems. But it was cutting in and out, and every time I'd wiggle this chip it'd go in and out. But it seems like every time I was wiggling the speaker connections, everything was causing it to go out. It was weird. So I flipped it upside down and I hooked up the oscilloscope, which I need to turn that off. Hooked up the oscilloscope to the output of this chip, and even though it was cutting out, the chip was staying on. So the power amp section wasn't cutting out. So that told me right now it was from the speaker relay on forward. So first I thought it was a switch, it wasn't. So I backtracked it to this relay. The input wasn't cutting out, but the output, as soon as I put my probe on the output, it stopped cutting out, which is weird. So I decided to resolder this relay, and now it's not doing it anymore. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Could be a red herring. I'm going to let this run for a bit and see if that turns out what it was. Alright, amplifier's back in there. I've not had any more problems since the incident with the right channel cutting in and out since I've resoldered the relay. So here we go. And that's about all I can do with that without getting copyright. So everything appears to be working. I think even the cassette actually works, because if I go in here, hit pause, and I try to trip the record play switch here, I'm pretty sure that works too. It does. So that's all good. I think what we're going to do now is just wrap this video up. So it was primarily centered around the amplifier anyways, but I just went ahead and done everything else. So I appreciate it if you watched it this far. If you have a comment, please feel free to leave one. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching.